Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Get Fit with Me, expanding your physical and mental fitness group. This group is for individuals who are ready to expand both their physical and mental fitness while helping and supporting others with similar goals all along the way. In this group, we talk about three main areas: physical fitness, mental fitness, two of those that are directly in the name, and mental fitness means more than kind of what we think it does. So we get to expand in some different varieties. Physical fitness, we actually move, we stretch, we do movement workshops, we actually learn how to move our bodies in the correct way. And then that third area that we cover is nutrition, and that is what we are covering today. And I found that you guys enjoy the nutrition topics because they are such a discussion out there. And today's topic is going to be a big discussion for some of you. Some of you may agree with me, some of you may not. And I want you to remember to take everything, take in what you want, don't what you don't want. Totally up to you, but from my perspective and my learnings is what I'm sharing with you because I do believe there's huge benefit in it. So in this group, we like to invite others in here into the conversation. So I see we have Sheila and Kelly on Facebook. If you are able to click that little Zoom link and jump in, you are going to get more out of this conversation by being in the Zoom room. And if not, no worries. Either drop hashtag live or hashtag replay to let me know if you're watching the replay or watching the live. Either way, follow along. The chat lives on, the conversation lives on. Just because we're going to sit here and talk for the next 30 to 40 minutes does not mean as soon as we're done, that's all we're talking about. So chime in the chat, let me know you're there. Let me know any questions, comments, concerns, opinions today. Like I said, today's topic is kind of controversial, so I'm really excited for this discussion. Something else is when I say we like to invite people in, we like to invite others into the group. This week, we've had Kelly bring a few new people into the group. Shout out to her. Thank you, because as this group grows, we grow and we get better together. Also, shout out for Jamie for also inviting people into this group. So the more you invite, the bigger the group grows, the more discussion we get to have and the more opinions we get to have and learn from one another. And I love that. Yes, I know a lot and I'm an expert in a lot of things, but when we talk about things, I learn different things all the time from each and every one of you. So the more of that we can include in the conversation, the better off you are going to be as well. So I'm excited, and we have two people on Facebook Live. As you guys are chiming in there, I want you guys to answer these three questions. Who are you? Where are you from? And what has kind of been your experience with carbs? Have they been something that you've always ate? Something you've kind of yo-yoed around of, I eat them, I don't, I eat them, I don't, something you've been completely afraid of? What are your thoughts and kind of your experience with carbohydrates? And some of you may be watching and thinking, I know what this means. Some of you may be like, I have no idea what carbs even are or what that category even is. And that's okay, because we're going to cover that today in some of the basics, because we're talking all about carbs. So we got Sheila on Facebook, excited to learn this subject. We got Kelly live as well. So yeah, take a minute, let us know who you are, where you're from. And Sheila says she's from Kansas and she doesn't understand them. Oh, you are not the only one. As I was doing research for this, there's so much out there that for anyone to fully understand them, I can't even wrap my mind around it, because as I was researching and doing more research than what I already know for this training, I started to get confused because of all the things that are out there. So I am in the same place you are at times, because there's so much information that how do you know what is right and what is wrong and what you take in and what you don't. Kelly from Michigan, carbs have been eliminated them completely, have incorporated them back in and have gone crazy with them. So all of the areas, yes, you are not alone. This leads me right into my story. I have done the no carbs. I have done eat whatever I want type of carbs. I've done low carb. I've done certain types of carbs. I've done anything you could kind of think of out there. I have tried it. Things that have not worked, though, and why I have learned a good relationship with carbs, as well as the importance of them and how to make them work in my life, is because everything I had tried, from low carb to no carbs to cut them out completely, it was not sustainable. I I couldn't sustainably stay doing that. Because what would happen is I would crave them all the time. And then all of a sudden I'd binge on them. And then I'd be like, well, got to cut them out again. And the more you told me no, the more I wanted them. And I know I'm not the only one that's in that position. If somebody tells you you can't have it, what are you going to do? You're going to be like, well, I'll just have a little bit. So with that being the case, cutting out carbs was not sustainable for me. I was not able to maintain it. It was effective. I'm gonna tell you what, because a lot of you are gonna say, well, it works for me. I lose a bunch of weight. It is effective, but it's not sustainable and it's not maintainable. And if you want something long-term and you want to be able to have the flexibility in your diet, in your life, and in your lifestyle, you've got to create a lifestyle and a healthy lifestyle around things that are sustainable for you, things that are maintainable. Because if you don't, you end up on that yo-yo or that roller coaster cycle that we probably have all been on at some point in our life. Something else that I want to share is I learned that I feel overall more energy and healthier when I incorporate carbs in a managed way. And I'm going to be sharing more details on that later. But I've done it. I've been in your boat. I've been the opposite way. And I'm here to tell you that you do not have to be afraid of them. And that is what I want you to remember when you leave here, is I want you guys to learn what a carb is, what types of carbs are I don't want to say better because I don't like good and bad or better or worse, but what carbs are ones that you should migrate a little bit more towards rather than others, as well as just figuring out that it's okay not to be afraid of food. We shouldn't have to be afraid of food. So we got some comments over here. We got Sheila says, exactly, Morgan. I like that. Having a good relationship with carbs, LOL. It has to be sustainable, incorporating carbs in a managed way. Yes, how can we do that? I feel better when I eat them. I feel so much better when we eat it. And that's going to bring us into our basics here. And so Sheila, this one's for you, specifically because you said you don't understand that. So we have 3 macronutrients in our life. And you guys hear me talk about protein a lot. Protein is any source of meat or non-meat based protein or fish. And that is that third energy source that our body grabs when we are hungry. We have fats, which is also a macronutrient, and that is that second resource that our body grabs and takes on. That first resource that our body grabs and takes the energy and implements is our carbohydrates. And carbs come in so many different varieties that often when we think carbs, we think of pasta. But carbs also means, Aunt Carrie, the caramel frappuccino that you like. It comes in candy. It comes in whole grain rice. It comes in white rice. It comes in potatoes. It comes in vegetables. It comes in fruits. And the thing to remember is carbs are whatever your body takes in, whether it's real fruit, real vegetable, whether it's bread, whether it's grains, it turns it into sugar in our body and gives us energy. That's our glucose, and it's the insulin. So if you take out all the glucose in your body, you're going to be exhausted, and it's going to start to do things to your organs in the long run, because our bodies are not meant to run without carbs. So you want to have 3 areas when you sit down at every meal or you have every snack: protein, fat, and carbs. And that reason is you eat your meal, your body's going to eat through that carb first. You're going to get that instant energy. You're going to feel good. And then if you don't have a fat or a protein, you're going to start to feel that I could use a nap. I'm starting to feel tired. Whereas when you pair it with that fat, your body eats through the carbs, then it eats through the fats, and then it eats through that protein, which allows you to stay fuller longer, which in turn means you eat less calories throughout the day because you don't have to snack here and there all the time. Sheila, does that make sense? Do you have any questions on that? What carbs are, which ones to migrate towards? Is it okay? It's okay to not be afraid of food. Yes. What is the percentage? Ooh, the percentage of carbs you should have on your plate. You want anywhere between 40 and 60% of your daily calorie intake. So the majority of your day comes from carbs. I like to not look at the percentages right away because everybody responds differently to the foods they take in. And I'm not saying sit down and have a whole thing of pasta at every meal because you're not going to feel great. We know what big things of pasta does for us. But if you can look down and say, I have a fruit, I have an egg, and I have an avocado, right there, that is a balanced meal. And you have a good amount of carbs right there to give you that energy and to make you feel sustained throughout. Perfect, Sheila. I'm happy that makes sense. Protein, fat, and carbs at every meal. Carbs give you instant energy, but without the fat and protein, you get tired feeling. So spot on for me. 40 to 60% of your daily intake, yes. And that varies depending on where you are. I usually try to look at 50%. I try to go 50% protein when I look at stuff because I'm really trying to increase my protein because it's really hard to get that in. I do about 45%, no, probably like 35% carb on my plate, and then the rest is fat. So it's all about finding that balance that's for you is the big thing. And remembering that it doesn't have to be these recommended dietary recommendations. It can be what works for you as long as you are still consuming them. Because when we don't consume the carbs, our brain, you may start to feel like it's foggy. When we don't eat it, we get fogged, we don't remember things, we do the, where did I put those keys? Sometimes that is related to hunger. And that hunger is usually because we don't have that energy source for that glucose in our body to move around and to allow our brain to think correctly. So kind of think through when that brain fog happens. Have you ate recently? Have you had a carb recently? Okay, so next little thing that we're going to get back to the basics on is our body break down carbs into glucose. So when we eat the carb, it breaks it down into glucose, which then is your blood sugar. Glucose is your blood sugar level. And we need that as our main source of energy for our cells, tissues, and organs, not just our brain, not for us to just go do things. But if we are not supplying our body with those, we're not going to be able to perform. We're not going to be able to digest as well. We're not going to be able to feel as good. And I feel this in my brain. That's where most of my brain fog comes from, is when I know I've not had enough carbs. And the other is when I'm getting up and I'm going to go do a workout. Or Sheila, I know you ride in the morning. If you have not ate something that gives you that little bit of energy, you're probably feeling a little sluggish getting on that horse. It takes you a little bit longer to get ready. Thinking of that aspect as well. LOL, is it? I am not just crazy. You are not just crazy, I promise. So, like I said, we're going to be talking about a lot of basics. So I'm going to give you some of these facts first, and then I'm going to bring up a PowerPoint later on so that you guys can see kind of visually what some things look like. There are some things that I've seen a few of you guys comment that I wanted to make sure we touched on, and that is craving of carbs all the time. And you are not alone in that. When you feel like you are the person who could eat every single carb all day long, they make you happy. Carbs are meant to release that chemical in your brain that makes you happy. And by having that, we feel better. The difference is I can incorporate a potato into my dinner. I can get that happy feeling. I can get that satisfied feeling. I can give my body what it needs, but I'm not overdoing it. And when I have a potato, like a baked potato, let's say, my body doesn't need that extra. I don't get that craving. And that's for a few reasons. That's because all of my meals are balanced. I eat a carb, fat, and protein, and I'm making sure I'm eating enough throughout the day. When we do not eat enough, our body wants the carbs because it's that quick energy that's going to get us feeling good the fastest. So that's where that first craving comes in. The other thing that comes in is when I talk about a baked potato. Baked potatoes are high in fiber. They come right out of the ground. I'm not adding anything extra to it. And with that being the case, there's no processed sugar in it. It's not processed. There's no extra sugar added, which means my body's going to process it in a better way, which is not going to make me want to eat more of it. Whereas if you have a pastry, once you have one pastry, you're going to want the next pastry. Because of the process and the additional sugar that is added in there, your body craves it. If any of you guys are Coke drinkers or Diet Coke drinkers, it gets addictive. And based on the type of carb you eat, depends on that addictiveness that you're putting yourself into without even realizing it. Like I can eat a potato and I'm good. I eat pasta. I want more pasta. I eat a pastry. I want more pastries. I eat a sweet potato. I eat a vegetable. I eat a fruit. I feel satisfied because those are whole foods. Those are whole foods, unprocessed, unrefined. So when we look later on at the difference between two types of carbs you should be looking for, you may notice that you're eating one kind that is causing that craving to happen more. And that's okay, because all you got to do is notice it and start to see, well, what can I switch to allow me not to have that craving? Or maybe you're noticing that it's because your meals aren't balanced and you're not eating a fat and a protein and all you're doing is eating carbs. Of course, your body's going to crave that next energy source because that's all it's been living on for so long. And that's why when we cut out carbs, our body loses weight, because the more carbs we eat, essentially, you could eat the same amount of protein, same amount of fat, same amount of carbs. It's calories in versus calories out. And when you eat just a carb, you're going to want to eat again. And you more than likely are going to consume more calories in a day than if your meals are balanced throughout. Questions, comments, concerns, opinions on this before I move forward? Sheila, light bulb moment, excellent idea on baked potato. What is your light bulb moment? What was that thing that just hit for you? I love those light bulb moments. And there is that small delay on Facebook for any of you who are watching. Excellent. Okay, so I'm now going to switch to the PowerPoint, and I want you guys to, I'm going to show you the difference between a simple, I crash if I just eat carbs, yes. And that's a few different things. Like I said, it's essentially sugar, whether you're eating a jar of sugar or you're eating pasta or you're eating a baked potato, your body processes it all the same. It turns it to sugar, it gives you energy. That's what it does. The whole food of a baked potato, yeah, whole food. So think of some of those whole foods that you can have. My go-to are baked potato, sweet potato. And if you have an air fryer, Sheila, let me know. I have an awesome home fry wedge potato air fryer recipe that they're the best kind of French fries. And there's literally a little bit of oil on it and you throw them in and they're amazing. And they still make me feel good. I don't feel overly gross after eating them. So I'm going to switch up here. So bear with me as I open up this thing. So we are going to, and there's my little bubble. And if you guys can let me know if you can see this okay, that would be awesome. I don't do PowerPoints very much, partly because I don't want to just talk at you or read the slides. But I do like, for stuff like this, it's really good to see some visuals and to actually see the words that I'm speaking. So all about carbs. So simple carbs. Simple carbs are broken down quickly by the body and to be used for energy. Simple carbs are found naturally in foods such as fruits, milk products, and even vegetables. Some vegetables have are considered those simple carbs. But so your fruits, your milk, and your milk products are things that you should have. Just know that the level of sugar in them is a little bit higher, so they're going to process a little bit faster in your body. But it's still good to have your milk products, to still have your milk, to still have your fruits. The thing I want you to be aware of is the second part. They are also found in processed and refined sugars, such as candy, table sugar, syrups, soft drinks. Often we don't think about those things that we are drinking as a carb. You put sugar and creamer in your coffee. If you have the Frappuccino, if you grab a candy bar, if you have a pastry, that level of sugar is higher and their body's going to process it quicker, which means we're going to want it more, we're going to crave it more. So thinking of, are the carbs you eat a lot of milk, fruit, milk products, or are you eating a lot of refined sugars, processed sugars? Do you eat a lot of processed food? It's not a bad thing to eat processed food, because there's a stigma out there where it's bad to have processed food. It's not. You're just not going to feel as great when you eat it, especially because usually when that processed food, it creates that I'm going to eat more, and all of a sudden the whole box of Cheez-Its is gone. You're like, well, what the hell? Where'd the box of Cheez-Its go? So thinking through making sure, am I having the fruit in the milk or the milk products? Or am I having sugars, syrups, soft drinks, candies, pastries, things like that? Perfect, glad you can see it. Gotta run, we'll watch, rest on replay. Awesome, Sheila, excited. I'll make sure to tag you in it too so that you get it popped back up again. So these are simple carbs. So there's two types of carbs we wanna look at, simple carbs and complex carbs. Next one is complex carbs. These are the ones found mostly in whole plant foods. They maintain their natural fiber and fuel the body with energy it needs. When you are thinking about having a carb, you want to make sure that it has nutrients, it has minerals, and that it has fiber in it. Because having those makes you feel fuller longer. If you've ever had a piece of white toast and a piece of actual 100% whole wheat toast, you're going to feel fuller after the 100% whole wheat bread because there's more to it and it doesn't process as quickly through your body. Does that make sense? Examples of your complex carbs are beans, oatmeal, 100% whole grain bread, quinoa, barley, potatoes, sweet potatoes, vegetables. Because that sugar level is lower, it doesn't process as quickly and it has more minerals and nutrients in it and fiber to keep us fuller longer, to keep us feeling good. And our body likes to process it at a slower rate. Whereas that simple carb, it processes quick. But having those quick carbs in those fruits, such as your bananas, having that white bread every once in a while, if you're going into a pre-workout, if you're getting ready to work out, it's early in the morning, you haven't ate, you want that simple carb to give you that quick release of energy. Lunch, dinner time, you want more of that complex carb, that carb that's going to let you feel fuller longer. That's you won't need as much. So we have this verses here, just so you can kind of see it on the same page. So simple versus complex carbs. Complex carbs are found in whole, unprocessed food, including fruits, vegetables, legumes, and whole grains. Simple carbs are sugars and starches that have been refined and stripped of their natural fibers and nutrients. We want the nutrients, we want the fiber. So one is not better than the other because I don't like good, bad food. This is the best, this is the worst. But one is going to give your body the better fuel option and is going to be longer lasting and more sustainable for you. So really thinking into looking at your diet, doing a food blog. What types of carbs are you eating? When you are eating them, if you're someone who doesn't really eat carbs, what carbs are you eating? Is it only fruits and vegetables? Is it that energy drink? Think about where is that sugar supply coming from? Is it coming from something that has fiber and nutrients in it? Or is it coming from something that's been processed and refined and stripped of the natural fiber and nutrients? So is fruit a simpler or complex carb? Awesome question. So it depends on the fruit, really. There are certain fruits that respond quicker. So a banana is considered a simple carb because if you look at it, it has like higher carb intake, which is going to produce quicker because there's more sugar in it. But I believe raspberries are lower. So raspberries would be a complex carb. They fall between each depending on what the food is, kind of like white bread versus whole wheat bread. Same kind of concept. So thinking of how much sugar, how many grams of carbs is in it is going to kind of give you an idea of how fast or how slow it's going to release. Complex carbs are better for us, keeping us full longer. Yes. So if you were to put better or worse, you want the complex carbs that have more things to it. It has more of kind of how I showed on this hexagon up here. It has more hexagons connected, which is going to make it harder for the body to break it down, which then means you're going to process it a little bit slower, still get that energy boost, still get that insulin and that glucose energy, but it's not going to break down right away so that you're hungry right away. You're not going to crave it. It helps make that hexagon a little bit stronger, if that makes sense. Let me know if it doesn't. Because explaining this is it does get confusing. So I am going to move on to a little diagram here. And this right here, if you want this, this is from, I don't even know where this is from. I found this online and I thought this was a really good representation of complex carbs versus simple carbs. So complex carbs are less processed. Simple carbs are more processed. Complex carbs you digest slowly. Simple carbs you digest quickly. Complex carbs have higher in dietary fiber. Fiber is also good for our bowel movements to help us move through and do the things that we need to do daily. Or if that's not daily for you, however often you need to do it. Simple carbs, lower in dietary fiber, make it more challenging. Complex carbs, higher in natural iron, B vitamins, and antioxidants. Simple carbs, lower in all those things. Complex carbs boost your performance. Simple carbs lower your performance. And I'm happy to share this. I'm happy to share these slides with you guys if you want it. If you do, just drop slides and I'll send this to you. I'm happy to share any of this work. The thing that I want you to just overall remember, and I'm going to exit out of this, is there's no good or bad. And what you are doing is not good or bad necessarily. If you are eating all simple carbs, it's not bad. If that's how you've learned how to live, it's just going to take practice to create that awareness. So look at your diet, and I'm happy to do a food log for anyone who wants it. If you want a food log, just drop log or food log, whatever you want to drop down there, either of those. And we'll create a log. We'll go over it. I will pick out the complex carbs with the simple carbs and swaps that you can make to help you feel better and boost your performance without having to take them out completely. And so often we think we have to take these things out for us to be successful, and we don't. It's all about finding that balance of what is the serving of the carb. It's the other thing to look at. Is often we sit down and we have double the amount of serving of pasta that it says. Well, that's increased calories. Our body's going to get tired and slow because we're having more carbs and we're probably not balancing it out with that fat and that protein that we need. Food log, awesome. I will get that to you. So what you'll do for that food log is start creating a list of all the foods you eat for every single meal for the next 7 days, and then we'll get together and we will have that conversation. We'll go through it as a group or one-on-one actually. Complex carbs are processed slower, still giving you the energy, but keep you fuller longer. Does that make sense? Yes. It's exactly what that is. We digest them slower, we feel better. It allows our body to actually feel good rather than that big bloat that we have when we eat carbs. So what types of questions or thoughts or opinions, kind of what's running through your mind after all of this? Because we could dive into this for the next next 5 hours at least. But the things, I don't want you to be afraid of carbs, and I want you to know the difference between a simple and complex and recognize what are you consuming. And once you recognize what you are consuming is when we can start to make a change so that you just feel better and that you can still enjoy the things. So you don't have to say, I can't have the bread at Olive Garden. I can't have I don't want to say Olive Garden. I haven't had Olive Garden in so long. I can't have the pizza at Claiborne's here in Mason because it has the carbs, but it tastes so good. No, I want you to be able to create a balanced meal so you can have that simple carb, but also balance it where you can have those complex carbs later in the days. There is a way to create this and maintain this. I do it. I do it every day. There are days where I don't follow it, but I'm consciously not following it. So becoming conscious of it is super important. What did I say about bloating and carbs? So depending on the type of carbs that you have, you're going to feel more bloated, and our body also processes things different. Like some of you may have a gluten intolerance. Some of you may realize rice is not good for you. Some of you may realize pasta is not great for you. That's all based on the way our body's made and our hormones and our chemicals. That if you find there's a food that makes you bloat more, I actually was talking to one of my clients this morning and she said raw vegetables and salad just really make me bloat. Okay, doesn't mean she's not going to eat raw vegetables. That means she's going to find a different way to eat them and prepare them. And if pasta is something you really enjoy, but you find it really makes you bloat, maybe you need a whole wheat pasta. Maybe you need a chickpea pasta. There's so many different options out there these days that just when a blanket statement of potatoes make me feel bloated, well, what kind of potatoes are you eating? Oh, you're eating red skin potatoes. Have you tried the white skin potatoes? I don't know very many potato names. Have you tried a sweet potato? Have you tried rice instead? Not just blanket statement saying, well, I bloat with all carbs, because I can almost guarantee that's not correct. And if you are, that's probably because you're eating way too much than a serving. And that could be with fats, that could be with proteins, or that could be with carbs. If you eat way too much food, you are going to feel bloated and sluggish. So just being conscious of how much are you eating? And if you feel that bloat, take that as your body's response of saying, maybe that's not a food that agrees with me very well. And you can do one of two things about that once you've acknowledged it. You can either dive in and you have an allergy test done to see if you have some sort of intolerance or allergy to it, or you can cut it out, or you can try a different option. Like I said, for pasta, there's so many different types of pastas out there. I know that if I have potatoes at home, I don't bloat. If I have potatoes out at a restaurant, I bloat. That right there, to me, knows it's something that potato is being cooked in, and the way it's being processed, the way it's being cooked does not always agree with me. That doesn't mean I don't go out and have fries. I just consciously am making that decision. So that's where that bloating comes from. And we want to also make sure we're drinking enough water to flush out the things in our body. No matter what you eat, you need to be drinking enough water to help flush those things out. Any other questions? That was a great question. So we're going to wrap here if we got no other questions, and feel free to keep chiming them on in the chat. And Jean, I know I saw you jump on earlier. Thank you for jumping on. I think you're probably back in school by now, is why you had to jump off. I'll make sure to tag you in this replay. For any of you who want to kind of look at your diet, you want to do a deep dive into what does my diet look like? Am I having simple carbs? Am I having complex carbs? Is there a certain carb that's irritating me more than another one? Have I tried different versions of carbs, or have I just blanketly just given up and cut them all out? Most often we choose just to cut it out because it seems like the easy option, but then we end up on that yo-yo or roller coaster cycle. So if you want help diving into your nutrition and taking a look at what that looks like, drop food log in the comments below. I'm going to reach out to you. I'll tell you the instructions again. It's just keeping a 1-week food log in the easiest way that's possible for you. You let me know when you're complete, and we do a call to kind of go over it, because you don't know what you don't know. And we don't realize some of these things until we start looking down at our log and saying, wow, I drink a lot of Coke a day. It's a lot of simple carbs. Or wow, I have potatoes and I feel pretty good. But when I have that pastry for breakfast with nothing else, oh, I don't feel very good. So noticing those small things that sometimes it's hard for us to notice on our own, and we really don't notice till we put it on paper. Awesome. We will do that food log. So you dropped food log in the comments. Start that 1-week food log. I will also send you a message with some of the details, or the quick little searchy video, so you can have the details again. Such a great call. How much protein? You did a great call on how much protein you're supposed to have. Yes, if you would like to be tagged in that protein training, it walks you through the exact breakdown of how much protein you need minimum. And that is one of those guidelines that I do really live into. Guidelines of carbs, we all react differently. We are all at different places. And I know us as women, we go through so many different hormones that our body needs to be changed pretty often. So carbs is one that I don't like to put a percentage or anything on. I just want to make sure you are having them for that brain function, for the organ function, for the tissue, for muscle, for all of those things that we need our body to do to keep us healthy. Protein, on the other hand, I believe very strongly in you guys getting a certain amount so that you live longer and you stay stronger longer, so you can have longer longevity. So if you want to be tagged in that protein training, drop protein. I'll tag you in it. I'll send you a message with it. It's a great training. Done it a few times, and it walks you exactly through the math on how to figure out how much protein you need. So we're going to wrap for today. I believe next week we have our movement workshop. So you'll have to grab your shoes, lace up, either get outside, jump on your bike, jump on your treadmill, wherever it is. And I don't know what we're going to talk about next week. I haven't looked back at it, but I do know we're going to be out moving for just 30 minutes, quick 30 minutes of movement. And you move at whatever pace is best for you. So if you're at work and you're like, I can't get sweaty, don't get sweaty. Just walk. Just walk and move. It does not have to be high intensity, it does not have to be high impact. It just has to be moving to get your steps in, to get your heart pumping, and to get you outside in the sun, honestly. So often in those work days, we get trapped inside and we can't get out, and then we wonder why we're tired. Well, if we're not fueling ourselves correctly, we're not giving ourselves fresh air. We're like a plant, let's be honest. You got to have the right food. You got to have water. You got to have some sunlight. You got to have rest. You got to be spoken to nicely. We're like a plant. And next week is the opportunity for you to get outside during that work day at lunch break and to just take a little walk, even if you only join us for 10 minutes. Get that 10 minutes of that 30 in. I will see you guys all next week. Enjoy the rest of your day. If you have any more carb questions, let me know. If you want that food audit, drop food audit. And if you want to be tagged in that protein training, drop protein. I'll tag you in there. I'll see you all next time.